So we found out that we had to use sharps to keep the scale at the same intervals, distance between notes, that you have to have what's called a major scale. That's the scale you use a lot. Now, saying you start on another key and you have to bring that key down and not up. Sharps bring notes up. Flats bring notes down. In other words, you can have the note F. And if you go to a black note above it, well, no, let's take the note G. This is easier to use. Let's take the note G. If you go above it, you will have a sharp on it. The note G, sharp. But if you want to go below it, you put a flat on it, and that will bring it down a half step to the black note below it. Sharp brings it to the black note above it. Flat brings it to the black note below it. So when you see that written out on those lines, that's what that means when you actually play it on the piano. So you have to learn that when you're a musician, no matter what instrument you play. So let's take a look at what a flat looks like, for example. Here we have a scale, and you will notice right away that there is a flat right there. You see there's a flat right there? That is what a flat looks like. A flat brings a note down as you make the scale. Now notice this entire scale here. This scale begins at the note E flat. And as you go up the whole scale, you will notice that you have to have flats on certain keys. And you will notice the same thing here. You have to have flats on certain keys if you are using that as a scale in the correct distance between notes. Now, you can start in any key on a black note and call it a flat, or you can call it a sharp. It depends on the intervals that have to be between those, because this is the scale that normalizes intervals between everything. That's the C scale. But once you go from C to any other scale starting on a different note on the piano, you must have some sharps or some flats. Now, for example, I will show you again here. Here's another kind of scale. This is called a melodic minor scale. Now, it's not a major scale because why? You'll notice that there is a flat on one of those notes. See that? Now, that's another kind of scale. That's called a minor scale. Well, we have several kinds of scales. Now, there are scales that I said before came from Greek music that was used for things in the church, such as Gregorian chant, which we can talk about sometime, that have all kinds of different names like Ionian mode, Phrygian mode, Elysian mode, Mixolydian mode, and so forth. These are some of those scales. Now, the Ionian mode is the one we use starting on C. That's the one we use all the time. That's our scale. But once you go down through all of these, they are not starting on the same note, or they have sharps and flats in them, because they are Greek scales that were used in the church long before we decided on two scales out of many possible scales. So these are things that when you study music, if you're studying early music, such as church music and Gregorian chant as an example of that, you will need to understand that these other modes, or they call, or types of scale, were used, and you have to know what they are in order to understand that kind of music. This has been a sample of sharps and flats. Hope you enjoy.